This dude might be one of the most notorious scumbags to have ever been captured on the show. Being a TCAP fan, if you haven't seen this sting, you must be living under a rock. From crazy cat fetishes to even crazier fantasies, I think showing up bare without one single strand of clothing on his body sealed the deal for this guy, Marvin Lakin. But how did he reach here? What went on behind the scenes, and more importantly, what happened to him after the show? All this and more in today's video, where I expose these details that are seldom made public. I think the crew was pretty much used to the idea of weirdos walking in with a bunch of flowers or a box of chocolates. Boy, I've seen those who've carried firearms with them, but this dude chose to walk in with nothing. I mean, with literally nothing on. Now, this might look hilarious to you, but the thought that went behind showing up without a shred of modesty at a place where the setup was alone is terrifying to say the least. And to think that he was just 22 at the time. Damn, this dude was definitely smoking up something crazy, or he was totally up inside his head. By the looks of it, I'd go with the latter assumption, because this dude actually asked for money to even fill gas. Yep, total loser, isn't it? But before that, let me quickly run down the chat logs and build up the story to where it reaches this point.
You want to explain yourself? Grab that towel right there, please.
That's the iconic moment we're heading into in just a bit. So, going by this inside information that I got, Marvin first made contact with a setup named Cindy on the 22nd of April 2006. So this jerk, going by the name Crazy Trini85, started a conversation with Cindy online, and when he didn't receive a response, 4 days later, he tried again. And this time, there was no looking back. Just a few minutes in, when Cindy said she scooted off to take a leak, Marvin was vile enough to ask why she didn't invite him to watch. Ew, just the sound of it is sickening. How can you even talk to someone like that? Let it be anyone of any age. That's just disgusting. And don't forget that he was just a few minutes into the conversation when he said this. Now, this dude clearly knew how old she was, because he said it himself that he would be a bit old for her. So, if a 21-year-old has to feel old, then you can imagine how old the setup was. But hold on right there, because the intensity of his crazy fantasies are only gonna soar higher. He then goes into great detail asking her if she could handle him, because he had this whole premonition that he was way too big for her. You see what's happening here? The very idea of Cindy not being able to accommodate him was enough to turn him on. What's more, he actually asked her to use her own fingers as a measure to figure out how large he could be. Gosh, that's just repulsive. I mean, this guy clearly didn't know how to converse with people, and this guy, just like his conversation, did not want any filters coming in the way of the act. When Cindy asked him if he would bring protection, he literally said he preferred it raw. So you're probably already getting the idea what this guy was expecting from this encounter. A lot of rawness. But what's more, he didn't want to limit himself to any one room, because this is what he had in mind.
Yeah, in every room, so no matter where you go, you'll remember me.
With so much happening, Cindy began to show a little fear of possibly conceiving, to which this dude claimed he knew how to time it. And how can he be so sure? Well, listen to his explanation right here.
I'm in med school. I know how to time it, according to your...
So you see what he's up to here. This dude was actually trying to show off that he definitely knew how things work more than the setup. He was not only reassuring her that she'd be fine, but also installing a kind of feeling that whatever he was suggesting was absolutely normal to do. But do you remember how he asked for money so he could come over and do all these disgusting things to her? It's crazy how she has to pay to get ravished by this man. And that's not the only thing he suggested. He even asked if she could call some friends over for a threesome. At this point, I think this dude has absolutely no sense of limits or boundaries. Speaking of which, I'll be heading to that moment which made Chris say this.
You're chasing a cat around. You've got Cool Whip.
Yeah, so coming to the highlight of the show, possibly one of the most disgusting suggestions any moron has given so far. I mean, just listen to this.
You have any pets? A cat? Oh, boy or girl?
So this dude wanted Cindy to get crazy all over the cat and do stuff to it while he sat back and enjoyed the show. Apparently he got the hot from it, and it would be the perfect setting to get him off on her. At this point, Chris totally echoed my thoughts right now when he said this.
Only imagine what would have been going on in this house had I not been here.
This is where all assumptions of this jerk being a total freak of the highest order is cemented. I'm totally blown over by the audacity of this guy. Because when Chris asked him if something really violent and disgusting would have happened had he not been around, this freak actually agreed to it. Like, no shame at all. And just when you thought he was gonna be truthful, he blurted out the biggest lie in his life.
First time.
Yeah, this is the first time, which will never happen again. I can tell you that. For now.
Yeah, probably the first time you got caught, definitely not the first time you're putting your fetishes to action. I mean, just look at him, you guys. I can tell you he's a psycho just by the looks of it. That smirk was absolutely unnecessary. Like, what even was so funny about the whole situation? And going by a few comments that popped up on several YouTube videos on him, apparently the people who knew him felt the same way. He was always that odd one who women never felt safe around. Quite believable now that we know what he's up to in his free time. And thank God he couldn't complete medical school, because I don't want any perv doc who himself needs therapy trying to heal me. Did you know that it took just 2 hours of chatting and 2 phone calls for Marvin to be on his way to the Sting House? In TCAP's terms, such losers are referred to as fast movers, which is exactly what he was. But before going into what happened after the whole confrontation with Chris, let me give you a quick glimpse into what happened behind the scenes, things that the cameras failed to capture. According to the official website of the Watchdog organization, the setup struck a deal with Marvin, without which she wouldn't do a thing with the cat, if you get what I mean. The deal was for him to show up like he did, if he wanted her to play with her pet. None of the crew members actually expected him to do so, but again, Marvin wanted to make sure that he made the most of his time with the setup and her furry pet, and the dude bought it, which is of course why he showed up like this.
Where are you?
Why just take a seat?
Just look at the speed he was shucking off his clothes with. This guy was ready to pounce right away. Now, this is what the world got to see, but apparently throughout this time, the setup or the voiceover who was enacting as one was on the phone with him. And the more she went, "Hey kitty kitty, hey kitty," in her cute little baby voice, the faster the man disrobed. This shows that he had a sense of compulsion and urgency with which he wanted to get the unusual threesome going. It disgusts me how this guy made it this far, and yet got 7 years of suspension and a compulsory inclusion in the offenders registry. This dude deserved more, way more than any of this. He deserves to be wiped out from the face of the earth. After all that you've seen, can you believe him when he said this?
Tell that this will never happen again.
Well, probably that's what his bail plea at court sounded like. But we all know how that went down, don't we? But wait, was there a specific reason why the cops decided to go with this kind of arrest? Oh yeah, anyone who's seen this episode has surely left one or the other comment about this camo cop taking down this jerk in a ghillie suit. I mean, that sure did make this entire sting all the more memorable. While a lot of them did appreciate and take notice of that particular cop's efforts, I think they just went with it because Marvin had this peculiar fancy for animals. Jokes aside, that's one hell of a way to go to prison, y'all, and Marvin was lucky enough to receive this honor. What followed was of course Marvin's arrest in 2008, and it just hit me that it's been 15 years since this dude got arrested. Damn. And he still remains such an iconic weirdo that his antics have been etched in the minds of several fans. So, like I said earlier, while I would only want the worst for him, on April 25, 2008, Marvin was found to be eligible for Florida's Youthful Offenders Act. For those of you who don't know, this basically means that the act helps reduce someone's sentence if they are really young and have no criminal background. And Marvin seemed to fit the bill to the T. You can honestly say that this jerk simply got lucky in every step of the way. And it's just annoying because I don't know how many dangerous people have been led under the same guise. This dude doesn't deserve any leniency, but it is what it is. And Marvin pleaded guilty to all of his charges, and ended up serving lesser time than most of the other morons caught on the show. Anyway, he was sent away to the St. Lauderdale Correctional Facility in Florida to serve his time, and I hope he learned some hard lessons while in there. Cut to 5 years later, and Marvin was out. Well, I'm glad he was slapped with probation, and of course, he entered the long list of offenders for life. But I think that just wasn't enough anyway. Moving on. Apparently, the loser got out May 5th, 2012, and before he could set foot in medical school or whatever it is he wanted to scoot off to, Marvin got deported. Marvin then moved back to Trinidad, and his hometown welcomed him with open arms. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like they encourage such behavior, but going by this YouTuber's video on Marvin's arrival at his hometown, he immediately got a job in a pharmacy without any hassles.
And he actually got a job in a pharmacy in a place called San Fernando, which
Now, this dude sounds pretty confident, so I'm assuming it must be true. It's crazy how nobody back home had any clue what this dude was up to in the States. Listen to what this local Trinidadian had to say.
we know of Marvin because of the show To Catch a Predator.
Wow, this is exactly what the show is all about, guys. It's about exposing those creepos who seem normal in real life. They could be your friends, your family, they could be everywhere around you. But these guys keep their dark secrets so private that you have no idea about it unless it really shows up. And it's crazy that his family and people who cared about him had to find out this disgusting truth from a show that was televised across the nation and eventually watched by millions across the world. One comment from a fellow Trinidadian spoke about what happened when Marvin's story became public back home. The viewer claimed that it was a huge embarrassment for his father and his entire family. And it's not very hard to believe that, right? I mean, it's such a shame that parents put so much faith in their kids and send them over across the seas to do something good with their lives. And yet, you get deported for something like this. That's so embarrassing. I won't be surprised if his family went into hiding after this news surfaced. Now, considering it's been 15 years since all this happened, I'm not sure if he's got his life back in order. But news is that the guy got married. Yeah, I know everyone deserves love, but come on, not someone like him. But it looks like he went into some kind of dark hole after he got married sometime in 2019. And when I tried to look for him, nothing showed up. And that's not all. I believe all his inmate records from the correction facility have been deleted because he probably changed his name. So it's likely that Marvin changed his name after he got married to avoid drawing any sort of attention towards him. However, I did find this, and pretty much everything adds up. His name, his age, the places he's been, but there's no proof of him residing anywhere in the US as of now. However, Crime Stoppers seem to be after him sometime in 2013. So did he come back after being deported? Or is he gone for good? I cannot be too sure. The latest I heard about his whereabouts is from the viewer who claims that Marvin must be somewhere around Sando, I suppose San Diego. If you know something, don't forget to hit me up, because who knows, maybe this jerk is lurking somewhere around the corner, ready to attack his next victim in the near future. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the content, and if you did, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. Also, if you thought this was one heck of a crazy video, then the latest one right here is even crazier. So don't forget to check it out.